Alright guys, what's going on? It's Jack, and welcome back to another video. So I know this video is going to be posted late, but I just got home from work, so I went at it right away to record, and yes, XDefiant has officially been delayed. Now, before getting into the nitty-gritty in terms of what I think, as well as a few predictions and things like that, I am going to read off what Mark Rubin had said on Twitter, or X. And then there was something else that the XDefiant team wrote as well, so I'm going to read that to you, and then we will discuss the topic a little bit further. So first off, we're going to go with Mark Rubin over here. So he tweeted, "Hello all, we just had a quick test of our PTS public test session server infrastructure, and I want to thank everyone who took part in the test. The servers will be used when we are live to test and get the feedback of new content coming into the game. So you may see new factions, new weapons, new modes, etc. We will adapt as needed to make sure the game is as aligned with player expectations. And thank you so much to everyone who filled out the survey and provided feedback on our various social media platforms. From this feedback, we saw that the majority of people had a great time and saw an improvement over previous tests. But that wasn't the case for everyone, and so we spent the last week digging through the data that we've collected and have identified some things that brought us to the decision to take some extra time to fix or improve the experience for everyone. I also want to point out that all feedback is not only extremely welcome, but crucial to our goal of making a great game. We really do listen to everyone's feedback no matter who you are, and I hope that comes across, that even if the team and I can't respond to everyone all the time. A great example of feedback from the PTS test was around movement feeling off. In particular, the slide felt nerfed or clunkier. Nothing had changed in that part of the game, but because people brought it up to us, we were able to dig deeper and find that the slide was being interrupted by frame spikes. So again, this might not have been something we'd ever seen through normal testing, so thank you again for the great feedback. I know it's a bummer that we are moving the date, especially since we seem to be so close for that for many of the game is great, and that we can't wait to play it, but I'd rather ship a game that is better for everyone. Our intent for this game is to be something that players can return to for many years, and to do that, we have to build this game with the community. So keep an eye out for future updates and info on the game and its launch. Thank you all again." So that was Mark Rubin, and now I'm going to read off to you what the XDefiant message team had to say. So a message from the XDefiant team. "Thank you to everyone who participated in our recent public test session and continues to stand alongside us as we build XDefiant. The PTS once again showed us your appreciation for fast-paced gunplay, uniquely crafted maps, objective-driven modes, and iconic faction rosters. But it also surfaced some inconsistencies in in-game experience that we need to address prior to launching for our preseason. We've made the hard decision to delay the preseason of XDefiant. The team will continue to work to address these issues and testing them to make sure that we deliver on our goal of being best-in-class arcade shooter. We will share more information about preseason and testing as it comes. Thanks again for your support. We're working hard to make something really special, and we couldn't do it without you. The XDefiant development team." Now, first of all, I just have to say that thank you yet again, Mark, for being very transparent. And a lot of people have even been complaining about that. It's like, dude, Mark Rubin and the XDefiant team, Mark Rubin more than anybody else has been leading the charge when it comes to being transparent with communities. And we're talking about not just within the arcade shooter type of genre, but we're also talking about specifically the genre that, like all genres in gaming actually, and on top of that, we've actually gotten some education as well. So basically with this last play session, things have been feeling off, and rightfully so. I've even been told by someone who I trust and someone who I believe that the aim assist has been buffed for controller players in this last session. Now, this could be a quote-unquote side effect, just like the frame spikes and how it's making the slide in the game feel clunky or whatnot, or the movement feel clunky. So that might be kind of a side effect or whatnot, even though it may or may not be relatable. I'm not sure. I'm not a developer. I don't know how this stuff works, but it may be. And I hope that we go back to the to the kind of aim assist that we basically had when we played the game during the closed and open beta. So now, with that being said, how long do we think that this game is going to be delayed? Now, my prediction is, now we know that the preseason was going to last 6 weeks. So my prediction is a minimum of 6 weeks and a maximum of 6 months. In other words, Q1 2024. We don't know for sure how long it's going to take for them to delay this, but all we know is that the more there is a delay, the closer we are to Call of Duty's launch. And even though XDefiant is a game that wants to kind of stay in its own lane, and even though I believe, and many others also believe, that these games can coexist, even though they can release side by side, you cannot ignore the fact that having a release date really close to Call of Duty can legitimately, in some way, shape, or form, destroy your game. But at the same time, back in those days, like let's say back in 2014 when Titanfall 2 got released, well, Call of Duty was still sharp back then. Right now, it's, in my opinion, it's not as sharp. You know, if the numbers are higher, it's because of Warzone and the microtransactions, not the quality of the game itself. So anyway, so with that being said, the same cause and effect. So I wouldn't be surprised if the game gets delayed in 2024. There have been people that have basically said that the game should get delayed to 2024, and they might make the decision to delay until 2024. It may be early 2024 in terms of like the first month in January, February, or at the latest in March. So basically what I'm predicting is anywhere from 6 weeks to 6 months. Now, I am seemingly one of the very few people that is actually optimistic about this, because here is the way I see it. Let me give you guys a little bit of a dose of a perspective here, okay? Number one is that the only bad thing about this delay, right? The only bad thing about this delay is obviously the fact that we have to wait longer to play this game. However, the delay itself is going to give us good things, unlike a few other games that we've seen in recent years, right? So with this game, not only do they want to have a good start, but they want to keep going and building more and more and more momentum, so that way the game continues to improve more over its time. Okay, just like Mark Rubin basically said in his tweet, we're building it with the community, and on top of that, you know, what's it called? It's a game that they want people to come back to year after year. Okay, so in order to do that, these guys know very well, especially since the team is composed of former Call of Duty developers, these guys know exactly what it takes in order to accomplish just that. So if the lesser of two evils is to actually delay the game, then my God, delay the game. Because if they were to actually release at the, like when the game wasn't fully ready, guess what? They would be doing the exact same thing that other games out there have been doing that have let us down year after year or iteration after iteration. So therefore, they don't want to do that. They don't want to copy exactly what the other games are doing. No, they want to set the example. They're doing it with transparency, so they need to do it with development now. And they're doing it. And I support this delay. You know, it sucks that we have to wait longer, absolutely, but I support this delay because I know at the end of the day, we're going to get that fresh, classic feeling of getting a game that's actually complete on launch. Back in the day, we used to get games that were complete and less buggy on launch. Nowadays, we get all sorts of problems with stuff going on with games, both single and multiplayer alike, and other issues that come up with it. But to get that classic feeling of a game that's actually optimally functional for every single console and for the PC and for everything else in terms of what they want to present to us. Oh, and one more thing I'm also optimistic about. There is definitely a chance, especially if the game gets delayed into 2024, there's definitely a chance that we're going to skip a preseason and we're going to go straight into season 1 along with the content that's going to come with it, possibly more content at launch. And speaking of which, we're probably going to launch, like especially if we're releasing 2024, we're probably going to launch with the Prestige system intact and everything else and all the bells and whistles that comes with it, the progression system, which is something that players have been wanting for a while. And I know that Mark Rubin himself, I just know this. I know that Mark Rubin himself is going to do everything in his power to make something like that possible. I know that he and the team are going to want to reward players for being patient and to sticking with them through this grueling process, especially in this day and age where more and more people are impatient and stuff like that. It's like, okay, let those people say whatever they want to say and feel however they want to feel. But at the end of the day, if XDefiant ends up being a good game, that in and of its and operational and feeling good on every single console and every single platform out there possible, people will come back. Okay, look, CS:GO lasted for a very long time, right? I mean, it was around forever, and it was because it stuck to its guns and it did what it was supposed to do. And I'm assuming that that's why Season Go had the longevity that it had. I don't see any other reason why. And this is coming from a person that doesn't play CSGO. But I've only had my PC for a year. So eventually, if I decided to go back on mouse and keyboard, I might have even given that game a shot. And at the end of the day, you also want the anti-cheat and everything else to work. You want to be able to have a system in place that actually keeps everything as fair as you possibly can, because that is a big issue too. So this delay allows for a lot more things to happen that are going to be for the overall better of the game. Now, there's also a chance that if the game does not get delayed to 2024, and let's say we just get a 6-week delay, and then everything else was the way we're supposed to get it, right? In terms of, we're going to have a preseason, and then after the preseason, we're going to have, everything else just like they planned in the roadmap, right? Which is a lot more likely to happen than being delayed to 2024, right? So if that ends up happening, then what we're just going to get is a much better optimized game, which I am for. And obviously, the delay is not going to be as long because it's going to be 6 weeks compared to 6 months at the very maximum. And the game at the end of the day is still going to operate and function better and more optimal the way it's supposed to. And at the same time, I have full trust in the developers that the game is only going to get better with time. But again, as I've mentioned before, and as the devs have mentioned before as well, is that it is very important and crucial that this game has a solid launch. You know what I mean? I mean, Halo, look at what the Halo Infinite players are saying. If Halo Infinite got delayed another year, because they delayed it for a year initially, and then after the game came out, there were a lot of players that were like, you know what, it should have gotten delayed at least another year. And if that happened, guess what? The player base would have retained. Okay, right now the player base is anywhere from 35 to 50,000 people. But when the game launched, it was at 250,000 on PC alone, and it is said to have had maybe up to up to millions of players on console that were playing that game. And now overall, upon every single platform, we've got anywhere from 35 to 50,000 consistent players. Now, granted, Halo Infinite's doing a great job right now, but the thing is, the launch is part of what messed that game up. People left, blah, blah, blah. So the thing is, this game hasn't even launched yet. So people are not, sure, some people are going to be like, oh, they're going to forget about it. And then eventually, what's going to happen is when this game releases, people are going to remember and be like, oh yeah, I forgot about that game. Let's play it. It's out now. Okay, let's see how it plays. Let's see how it feels. Wow, it actually feels really good. Holy crap. They've got, wow, this feels really great. It's awesome. No SBMM and all that other BS going on. Input-based matchmaking the way we want it, and crossplay the way we want it for those that want that. And the controls feel good, the guns feel good, the maps are great, the modes are good. We're gonna have more. We got content coming, progression system, all that kind of stuff. Basically the absolute needs of your arcade first-person shooter that we have not had on a consistent basis in a very long time. And XDefiant is actually, like, with this delay, it sucks that we have to wait longer, sure, but in the process, we're also going to be avoiding trip mines that could actually potentially kill the game, because if the launch itself is rough, it's going to kill your game. It's not going to have nearly the amount of player count. You know what I mean? So we don't want the same thing to happen to Halo Infinite to happen with this game. And at the same time, even Call of Duty's numbers in terms of its base multiplayer is not where it once was. It's not. Okay, so Warzone is where the majority of the numbers are, and in terms of the base multiplayer, it's not what it used to be. Even in this day now, since we got the multiplayer beta going on for Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, despite the fact that the game itself seems to be better than Modern Warfare 2022, it still doesn't mean that those numbers are exactly where they need to be or where they're going to stay. So again, with XDefiant, this is their approach is the classic approach that we used to have back in the day before things started happening the way they have been with games as of recently and being released incomplete and their buggy mess and all that other crap. And it's not just limited to Call of Duty that this is happening to. It's not just limited to multiplayer shooters. It's a lot of games that are doing this. So, basically XDefiant is trying to be the multiplayer Elden Ring, so to speak, because Elden Ring, even though no game is perfect out there, Elden Ring released in a very, very good position. Of course, they had to have a few patches here and there to, patch a few things just like normal, but we're not talking about, buffing weapons here. We're talking about the completion of a game and for the game to be optimized to operate the way it's supposed to be. So, and that's one of the things that's going to keep players around. And that's another thing that's going to keep players coming back, because there's the players that stick around and then there's the players that come and go. So this video could easily be another 15 minutes, but I'm looking down at my timer over here and we are at 14 and a half minutes as of right now. So I'm going to cut it here. So overall, it sucks that we have to wait longer, but at the end of the day, it's going to be that much better, you know. So if you want to, like, you know, however you feel, you have every right to feel the way you feel in terms of whether you're bummed out or not. I totally understand. But the thing is, ultimately, at the end of the day, this game will be better for it. And look at the bright side. If it does release in 2024, guess what? It's not going to have much competition to go up against in terms of its own genre. So nothing in its way, and the game is going to be a quality game. And that's all we want. As a community, that's all we want. We want a quality game that we can play of an arcade shooter, and the devs are going to give it to us, and they know what they're doing. This is just a delay. At the end of the day, we need this launch to be solid. As long as the launch is solid, then the game, you know, the sky's the limit for the game. But anyway, that's all I got for this one, guys. So I know this was a little bit longer than usual, but I had to get it out there. So anyway, let me know down in the comment section what you guys think, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.